Hey, we're live. What's good, Ohio Cannabis Report family and community? Gerald Moore Jr. checking back in. I know it's been a few weeks. Oh, sorry about that. I guess we got to restart. Said my camera was unplugged, but back to let me see. It's been a couple weeks, since I've done a live, so we might have some technical difficulties. I had to take a break. Obviously, it's a lot that's always going on when it comes to cannabis space in Ohio and nationally. So we definitely have some highlights to go over. Obviously, the main highlights that have been going on is cannabis being rescheduled to Schedule 3, which again a lot of people are talking about. There's still a lot of confusion and what's going on. And anybody that's on the ground floor, anybody that has been a part of the cannabis community during prohibition, right, pre-legalization, understands that um, Schedule 3 is not good for everybody, right? Like Schedule 3 is good for politicians, business owners, business leaders, pharmaceutical companies, research companies, private institutions. And so again, we want cannabis to be descheduled completely, right? Cannabis shouldn't be scheduled at all. We should be treating cannabis almost like tomatoes, right? Flowers. Cannabis is something that shouldn't be scheduled at all, right? It is not the same as Tylenol. It is not the same as ketamine. It is not the same as some of these other drugs that are in Schedule 3. But obviously, that's the headline because it's the federal government, and it's still going to hurt and penalize and criminalize people that have been harmed by the war on drugs for over 60 years. And so, again, that is something that us as citizens, us as community members, we need to continue to be vigilant about and aware as we continue to advocate for the plant and the people that consume and use the plant. And so, with that being said, man, welcome back to another episode of the Ohio Cannabis Report. I'm your host, Gerald Moore Jr. I am also the founder of Ohio Cannabis Report. I want to thank everybody who's been supporting since we started this platform. I want to thank everybody who came out to our first Central Ohio Cannabis Social Equity Forum a couple of weeks ago. It was a great success. We heard a lot of great things from community members and our panelists. So make sure you guys, if you haven't watched that, it is streaming on our page. And so make sure you go watch that forum. I am currently in the process of planning the second forum, still thinking about which direction I want to go in terms of which community I've been thinking about having as a part of that forum. And so again, it's been a lot going on. And so obviously here in Ohio, Senate Bill 56, has been law since March 20th. So a lot of people are still getting adjusted to that. There's been some articles and things about, drug busts and, things going on. There's been a few lawsuits. I know I'm in Franklin County. So a Franklin County judge did allow two hemp shops, smoke shops to continue to sell their products because, again, they put this bill in reducing hemp. And now a lot of businesses that invested in the hemp industry obviously are stuck with all this product. So again, there's been a lot going on. There's been a couple other lawsuits in other counties. And so I believe there are going to continue to be a lot of different lawsuits. Make sure if you're checking in, hit me up in the comments. Let me know where you're tapping in from. Let me know what you're smoking on. If you're smoking on something, I'm actually about to roll up right now. But I'm going to pull up some different articles and things. Like I said, it's been a couple of weeks, so I've kind of been out of commission in terms of doing really any work in the cannabis space because I have a family, I have kids. I recently started coaching my son and my nephew's flag football team. So that's had me busy on the weekends. But I love the kids. I love giving back. And it also shows, a lot of people say, well, you smoke cannabis or you smoke weed or you're a pothead, you're a stoner, you're lazy. Doesn't stop me from helping the children out. It doesn't stop me from motivating the kids. Doesn't stop me from working with my community. So to all those people out there that have such a negative connotation about people that consume cannabis, the cannabis itself, I try to be a positive advocate in all aspects of my life. Cannabis is simply just a small part of my life. It just helps me navigate my world and my reality. It doesn't stop me from living and doing the things that I enjoy doing. So it's been a great, we're what, week 4. So it's a 5-week season. So we're week 4. We won our first game. Obviously, we put a bunch of kids together that have never played before. It's 9 and 8-year-olds. And so it's been a great time. We won our first game last week in epic fashion. Also, one of the opposing team's moms came up to me and said, "Oh my God, you are so good with the kids." You know what I mean? Like, you're just so motivational. Again, cannabis does not harm me in helping the youth and being on their level. So I'm about to roll up real quick. Let me pull up some articles and stuff so we could just go over and see what's been happening in the cannabis space in Ohio and broadly, because it's always something going on. You know what I mean? So, and I know everybody can't always pay attention to what's happening. Um, and I will go over this again too, right? So Senate Bill 56 in Ohio, because again, a lot of people just don't know the information in Ohio typically travels pretty slow unless you're in a major city. I'm in Columbus, which again, I don't think, people in Columbus are going to be as impacted by Senate Bill 56 as some of these smaller towns, right? Some of these, cow towns, farm towns. Obviously, it is, people will say, well, it's always been illegal to transport cannabis across state lines. Obviously, cannabis is still federally illegal. Obviously, with Schedule 3, it still doesn't allow for the transportation of cannabis across state lines. But again, going up to Michigan, Michigan is legal, adult use, recreational, medicinal. So a lot of people in Ohio, you have a large population of people that are closer to Michigan dispensaries than there are to Ohio dispensaries. There's been some research and some studies done that even with the increasing gas cost, inflating gas prices, it is still cheaper for people to go to Michigan and purchase cannabis than purchase cannabis in Ohio. So a lot of people are still dealing with obviously the pricing difference of cannabis in Michigan and Ohio. So some people are going to be willing to take that risk. But with Senate Bill 56, it's illegal to legally purchase cannabis in Michigan and travel across state lines. I don't know how the police are going to know necessarily, like if it's Michigan weed versus Ohio weed. I talked to a police officer a couple weeks ago at the city hall in Columbus, and she didn't even know Senate Bill 56 was a thing. But also, I don't believe some of these major cities are going to want to deal with and the court cost of dealing with people dealing with cannabis. So, but it's important that we know the laws. It's important that we share this information. So again, with Senate Bill 56, you still have home grow. Home grow is still legal. 6 plants per adult, up to 12 plants. But they made a more strict line on that. So before, they wouldn't prosecute you unless you had more than 23 plants. Now it's strictly 12 plants. I don't know the growth stages. Obviously, you have clones, you have seeds. So I'm assuming like mature flowering plants is what they are talking about. Also, with Senate Bill 56, public consumption is now illegal, right? Before, again, we voted for public consumption with issue 2, and the politicians and OCAN said we didn't know what we were voting for. Well, we voted for public consumption as part of the bill, but they took that out. So now public consumption is now illegal in the state of Ohio, and you have to consume essentially in the privacy of your own home. Sharing weed is still technically illegal, so they've basically gutted the sharing part of cannabis. People are doing farmers markets. People go to the farmers market. Everybody got their weed. You can share the weed or whatever. Now you have to share your weed in the privacy of your home. And so that's another, thing that is going to impact the community. They've also put discrimination clauses into the law. So your employer can now drug test you if you fail a drug test. For weed or marijuana, you can be subject to being fired. Obviously, uh, in Ohio, like they could fire you for whatever they want to anyway. But if you fail a drug test, you can now be fired. If you're fired for failing a drug test, you won't receive your unemployment benefits. Also, healthcare can discriminate against you. So if you're up for an organ transplant and you consume cannabis, they can decide that they don't want to operate on you and give you that organ transplant. Um, Police can now obviously probable cause if you smell like weed, if they think you have weed on you, they can discriminate against you, get you out of the car. I'm assuming search your car. If you have an open baggie, open container in the car, in the glove box, in the armrest, that is grounds for fines and criminal penalties. Now you have to have cannabis in your trunk if you're transporting it. If you don't have a trunk, it has to be in the farthest part of your car behind the driver's seat. Also illegal now is you cannot consume in your car, even if the car is parked and it's turned off. Obviously, a lot of people consume in their cars because if you don't own a home, and let's say you're renting or leasing, and you don't want to smoke in your apartment or your leased house, because again, that could be against the lease. Where are you going to smoke? You're going to smoke outside, you're going to smoke on the balcony, you're going to smoke in the park, you're going to smoke in the car, all illegal, right? So again, Ohio has a housing crisis. I think it's over 50% of people don't own a home in Ohio. And so that is obviously going to be a big issue for a lot of folks in the state of Ohio. So those are some of the big ones. Obviously, they gutted the hemp bill. So, a lot of people were leveraging the hemp loophole, THCA, Delta 8, Delta 9, the hemp beverages. Those are all done away with. So now you have a bunch of breweries that invested in hemp beverages. You have some breweries that started to produce those hemp beverages, and now they can no longer sell those products in the state of Ohio. So those are some of the biggest issues with Senate Bill 56 that are going to impact a lot of people in the community. What else? What else? What else? Yeah, they gutted tier 3 craft grow. So again, we had never rolled out tier 3 or craft grow. But that's what a lot of people were hoping to be a part of, right? The craft grow, sell smaller batch cannabis to your community, or sell it to the dispensary and have the dispensary sell it, or have smaller dispensaries. They gutted the tier 3 craft grow. They gutted tier 3 dispensary licenses, even though they had yet to roll those licenses out. They capped dispensaries at 400 for the state. We are currently at about 200 dispensaries in the state. What else? There's something I'm missing. It'll come back to me. But again, these are issues that, as a community, we have to be vocal about. We have to understand which politicians voted for Senate Bill 56. And again, there were some Democrats that voted for it initially and then backtracked, which I had a politician, Latina Humphreys, who hit me up on Threads and said, "Oh, I voted for the bill initially, but then the bill got worse, and so I didn't vote or support the bill." And SB 56, before it became SB 56, it was already a terrible bill, right? Like, they didn't do anything to improve the bill. We still don't have marketing of cannabis in the community. We still have a lack of education and awareness in the community about cannabis. There is still a lot of things that people just don't know, and it's not coming from the state. It's not coming from dispensaries. The dispensaries and cultivators and processors just want to corner the market, right? And so that's why we started this platform, was to hopefully, be a outlet to be able to share some of this information that we're not receiving from the state or these cannabis companies. So again, make sure you follow us on Instagram. Make sure you follow us on Threads. I have a Substack where I talk about a lot of these different issues as well. So, and again, I post different topics, events. I share different community members' thoughts about what's going on in the cannabis space as well. So again, there's been a lot of movement. There's a lot of talk going on in the community. But again, talk online is one thing, right? But we need to also have action, right? We need to, find a way to have community conversations in real time, come together, and also challenge our politicians to be more progressive in this space. Because again, we understand that one, cannabis reduces alcohol consumption. So Ohio's an alcohol, friendly state where a lot of the money from alcohol sales goes to Jobs Ohio, which Jobs Ohio is a workforce development, an economic development arm of it's a private nonprofit, but it's funded by liquor sales, and it's basically controlled by the state government, which is right now, heavy GOP Republican. So again, this is, if you start to tank alcohol sales, right? If alcohol sales start to tank, now you have less money going into this workforce development arm, which they're giving tax incentives, they're giving grants, loans to these companies to be able to, and try to incentivize companies to come into Ohio. So like Andrew, which a lot of people probably are familiar with, probably received a ton of money from Jobs Ohio via, the state government. A lot of these data centers are receiving, money from, these same type of programs. But again, a lot of people don't know this is private stuff. Again, the information is public, but they don't share it broadly. So I think it's important that we discuss on how some of these things impact the broader community, because again, we will all be impacted by a lot of this stuff. So let me see. Also, hit me up in the chat. Let me know in the chat if you tuned in. I see we got a few people tuned in. Again, I've been off for a little bit. I haven't shared a lot of content via YouTube, just to take a mental health break. This is a lot of work. I do this out the kindness of my heart. I don't make no money from this yet, I guess, on YouTube or streaming. But that's why we do the events. That's why we do podcast. I do have a podcast. I have to record a new season. So if there's anybody out there in YouTube land that wants to come on the show, let me know, because I'm always looking for different people to interview and just get their perspective on whether you're in Ohio or you're just in the cannabis community, period. I just love to share people's stories and get people's stories out there, because that's one of the biggest things that I've realized, obviously, since legalization is beyond smoking weed, beyond, the business of weed, it's storytelling, right? It's the cannabis affects so many people. The war on drugs has impacted so many people. And so we have to share these stories, because if we want to end the stigma against weed, right, we still have all these outdated narratives, right? The devil's lettuce. You got church folks. Like, I grew up in the church, so I know how it go. I grew up in Black Baptist churches, and some of them folks are the most staunch, conservative people, but the whole time they're obese. You know what I mean? Like, they don't have a problem drinking Coca-Cola. They don't have a problem, with their health issues. They got tons of pills in their purse, but weed is bad. And so again, it's up to us as a community to really share like how cannabis impacts us beyond, the high, right? Like, a lot of people, oh, you just want to be high. Oh, you just want to be high and lazy. It's like, no, I know a lot of people that smoke weed and are very active people in society. I know people that smoke and consume cannabis, or just consume cannabis and have high profile jobs. You know what I mean? I know there's a lot of people that don't want to speak publicly because they have a high profile job. But again, that's a part of slavery, right? Like, if you can't speak because, you're afraid of your boss or your job or people turning you in, sounds like slavery to me. And that's why I've been so vocal, because again, like, this is my job now. You know what I mean? Like, cannabis is literally my job. And, covering this stuff, I created an opportunity, right? And I think that's what people have to understand. There's so much opportunity in the cannabis space. No matter what career you are a part of, there's some way that cannabis is impacting your career or your job. I have a degree in healthcare administration and a business minor. Again, nowhere in my studies did I learn about cannabis. Did I learn about the endocannabinoid system? Did I learn about terpenes? Did I learn about CBD? That I learned about how cannabis can impact and help with inflammation. Again, as a former Division I All-American football player, as a former NFL free agent, cannabis is still frowned upon in a lot of these major spaces because, again, it's run by doctors and pharmaceuticals and alcohol, right? And so we've seen a turn for some of the, pro teams or pro leagues like baseball start to dabble into CBD. And they've started to roll back some of their testing of athletes for these products, but again, it's still not progressive enough, right? And a lot of times the athletes, again, aren't going to talk about it publicly. We've heard a few that are in the league, like Kevin Durant, become more public about cannabis and his consumption of cannabis and his support. But again, a lot of this is a part of SB 56 too. So now with name, image, and likeness, right? College athletes can make money off of their name, their image, and their likeness. But with SB 56, there's a clause in there that basically says that college athletes cannot do partnerships or collaboration or make money via NIL deals with cannabis companies. So that's a part of SB 56 as well. What else do we got? Yeah. All right, I'm gonna share my screen here really quick. Go over this article. I am. That's my wife right there, by the way. For y'all that don't know.
Some local dispensaries.
It has been 1 month since Ohio Senate Bill 56 went into effect. That bill putting new restrictions on adult use marijuana products.
NBC4's Brett Mills shares what some local dispensaries
If you ain't know, that is my wife.
Past 30 days.
The people I spoke with say with the provisions from this bill in place, it provides a safer cannabis market in Ohio and the opportunity for more growth in the future.
It's definitely been beneficial to us in the community, keeping a lot of the unregulated goods off of the market. It also keeps it out of the hands of minors. And then it also helps with tax dollars, of course, going back to the community.
In March, Ohio
they got rid of the Social Equity and Jobs Fund.
Had to face new restrictions,
so 36% of the tax revenue goes back to the state.
And hemp-infused THC drinks or gummies can only be sold through licensed dispensaries. Right now, that ban is on hold for 2 businesses in Central Ohio following an emergency court hearing last week.
If you are going to make a drink that only contains THC in it, your active ingredient is pure THC, okay? It's definitionally marijuana. If you were going to handle these substances, the state provided a clear pathway for you to do so. You had to either apply for and win or acquire.
Well, we're going to pause it right there for 1 second. So Clutch Cannabis is being sued by Clutch Sports Group, which is owned by LeBron James's best friend, Rich Paul, and they're out of Akron, Ohio. So Clutch Sports Group is a talent and sports agency that represents professional athletes such as LeBron James. And basically, Clutch Sports Group is suing Clutch Cannabis for trademark infringement because they're basically saying that Clutch Cannabis is using the same type of typography, and people don't know the difference, right? Some people believe that Clutch Sports Group and Clutch Cannabis is a part of the same company, and they are not. So Clutch Cannabis, which this is the owner of Clutch Cannabis, is actually being sued. His company's being sued by the LeBron James, Clutch Sports Group, and Rich Paul's company. So we went over that in another video as well, but I'll go over that lawsuit again after this video. Also, we have to be very aware, right? We have a limited license industry. So they only allotted a certain amount of licenses for dispensaries, cultivators, processors, tier 1, tier 2. There was, a $50,000 application fee. If you didn't win the license, it was a non-refundable application fee. So you had to have the money. You also had to have the buildings, right? You had to have the money for the buildings. You had to be able to show this all cash, right? So there's no way for the little guys, people like you and I, to get into the cannabis industry other than some people doing the hemp loophole, right? And so again, the people that are currently running this industry, where were they pre-legalization? Also, with adult use and recreational use, again, Ohio had medical use. right? So the program started with medical. The people that had medical licenses for cultivation, processing, and dispensing got first dibs on adult use and recreational, being able to grow products and sell products in dispensaries for adult use, right? So again, you have about 30 cultivators that already have a stranglehold on the industry. And then, yeah, so we'll continue before I get on my high horse.
They're a license, a processing license, at least.
Some local dispensaries say the changes around THC-infused products could lead to more interest from people in the community, noting it ensures regulated and tested products that hit the market can be trusted.
What we're seeing is just a more fully developed program that with regulatory clarity, the same kind of guardrails are in place. And you know, I think that as the market's matured, we've seen a lot more people try these businesses for the first time.
And as of this year, cannabis sales in Ohio reached over $3 billion. Local for you, I'm Brett Mills, NBC4.
It has been 1 month.
So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments as well. I always love to hear what the community has to say about, you know, some of the articles and things that we go over. I will share the comments. So don't be afraid to comment. Make sure you guys like, comment, and share the stream as well, so we can continue to grow the platform. Again, this is all independent. You know what I mean? I don't receive any compensation money. We haven't done any sponsorships or promotions by any of these cannabis companies. Now, I will work with smaller businesses, smaller brands. We have worked with App Girls Cannabis. Unfortunately, App Girls Cannabis is one of those THC beverages that is made here in Ohio. App Girls is the name, so Appalachia. I rocked with them because I went to the Ohio University, and so they are in Athens, Ohio. So shout out to App Girls Cannabis, and they've been one of the few companies and groups of people that have publicly spoken out against our state politicians, against some of these companies. If you haven't tried their drinks are pretty good too. I just had to get rid of all of mine because, again, I didn't want to be carrying a bunch of App Girls, but you can still purchase App Girls in Kentucky, Indiana, I believe, in Pennsylvania or West Virginia. So make sure you go to appgirlscannabis.com if you want to check them out and see where they are located. But again, they're a small business, Appalachian grown business. You know, and they, again, were a part of this ban. So now their products cannot be sold in the state of Ohio, which is very unfortunate. Which, again, the hemp ban is hurting small businesses, right? It's hurting communities. It's not helping. You know, you have to look at the vantage point of where these people are speaking from. So the guy from NAR Reserve, he's a manager at NAR Reserve. Right? They are an OCAN business, Ohio Cannabis Coalition. They are essentially trying to but they've cornered the market and the industry in Ohio as they represent, and their members are, you know, the Buckeye Reliefs, the Amplify, which is under Buckeye Relief, GTI. A lot of these companies are under the umbrella of OCAN, which is, again, a nonprofit entity, which is trying to and one of their lobbyists came from the Department of Cannabis Control. Two of them, I think, actually, the finance person and the deputy director, the executive deputy director, their mouthpiece, their PR person, Adrienne Robbins. She actually used to work at NBC4 with my wife. She's now the voice of the cannabis community. And so obviously what they're trying to say is, well, you know, this is not regulate cannabis like alcohol, right? We need a regulated market. Well, we're seeing every single day the DCC puts out something that says, you know, even these regulated companies have mold, they have all these things, they mislabeling, the packaging is off. But then when it's the people saying it, it's, oh, you guys don't know what you're talking about. You guys are just angry. You guys are just whiners, right? So it's, how are you going against your own constituents at the end of the day? But that's why people need to understand we have to get more involved politically, right? Instagram, social media, YouTube, it's a great way to get the word out. It's a great messaging system, But at the end of the day, there are things going on the ground floor every single day at the state house, at the city halls, and everybody's different, right? Every city is different. I'm in Columbus. Cincinnati is different. Cincinnati got a whole different culture and vibe, right? They just did, shout out to Pothead Genius, shout out to the Smoking Word podcast, shout out to everybody in Cincinnati. I do have a podcast coming out with the Smoking Word podcast, so look out for that, where they interviewed me about, you know, all the things going on in Ohio, in the cannabis space. I love their podcast, love what they're doing. Pothead Genius and his sister and his community have done a lot of great events. They have a great brand, and you know, they celebrate the culture in the community. They just had a peaceful block party in Cincinnati where it was cannabis friendly, which was pretty dope. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it during the week. Typically, I'm a stay-at-home parent. Today, I'm off. That's another reason why y'all only see me sporadically, is because I am a caretaker for 3 days out of the week, taking care of my nephew. I've been a stay-at-home dad the last 9 years. And so it's been a great, for me, it's been a great time to, one, learn myself, but also take care of my community and my tribe. I'm a big brother. I'm the second oldest of 11 total siblings. So when I move, like, I move in a certain type of way. I move with conviction. I move with purpose. I move with courage, because that's the only way I know how to live. You know what I mean? I know people are constantly watching me, right? As a Division I All-American football player, like, being in front of the camera is nothing to me, right? Performing in front of the camera, making a mistake, right? Getting ran over, dropping the interception, losing a game. You know, those things are more challenging than having conversations about cannabis, honestly. When you lose a football game after you just got your ass whipped, and you got to sit there in front of 30 cameras and 30 people asking you dumbass questions about why you lost the game or where you think you should have done better. It's like, we all watch the game, just like we all watching what's going on in the United States. But the problem is we got so many people just watching, right? Not doing, right? And people think they're doing because, oh, I go to work every day and I'm working and I'm making money and I'm taking care of the family, or I'm doing entertainment. But at the end of the day, like the state house, right? These laws and policies, you got people, well, I'm gonna just keep smoking because guess what? I was smoking before SB 56, I'm gonna smoke after. But that's a very ignorant mindset, because everybody don't own a home. Everybody don't live with their mom and dad or grandma and grandpa. Everybody can't get the $150, $200 fine paid off. Everybody don't have access to a lawyer. Everybody don't have, right? And that's the problem with capitalism in our society right now. As long as it don't affect me right now, I don't give a fuck. And that's the problem, right? We have a lot of people that live and exist like that. As long as it's not affecting me right now, I don't care. And that's a sad way to live, because it's like, yo, where was y'all before weed was legal? People wasn't this public. I know I wasn't. I didn't say it. People didn't know I smoked. My best friend knew I smoked. The people I smoked with knew I smoked, and that was it. I was a clean-cut private school kid that made plays. Tried out for the NFL. Guess what? The NFL, you smoke weed, you get drug tested. Now you are a drug addict. Now we are going to test you multiple times a month. And guess what? If the media finds out, now the media is going to say, oh, he's a fucking drug addict. And you guys are Ohioans, a lot of y'all. Cleveland Browns fans, right? Who was one of y'all good players? Josh Gordon. What did he get caught up for? Weed. But again, people, oh, you can't put the weed down making all this money. What do you mean? So I could pick up the bottle, though. I can go buy. I just went to Kroger and I sit in the parking lot for a few minutes. And how many people walking out at 9:30 a.m. with a handle of liquor? Which, again, what is that? And I don't judge people based on their consumption. But again, we have to understand, I've been consuming cannabis about as long as I've consumed alcohol. My grandfather was an alcoholic, right? I didn't have a great relationship with him because once my dad, moved us away, like, we didn't have a good relationship. But then I found out my granddad was growing cannabis in the basement. My granddad was a gardener. My granddad was a mechanic. He could pretty much do anything. He could play the bass guitar, right? My granddad was married to my grandmom and they cared for me for the first few years. But also as a child, what did I see? I saw handles of alcohol, malt liquor around the house. I saw cigarette butts around the house, right? So obviously those memories as a young child, you see those and you remember them. But we also got to understand, what is the destruction of pills, alcohol, right? Salt, sugar, start all these bad processed foods, right? All the overworking that people are doing, right? Underpaid, the trauma, right, of COVID, the trauma of war. But then weed is bad because weed is going to allow me to relax. Weed is going to make me chill out. I don't know people that fight over weed unless somebody done stole some weed money, right? Or some drugs, right? That's a different topic. But again, weed should be free and accessible, right? A lot of people complain about not having universal health care. What is cannabis? If I'm not mistaken, cannabis is universal health care, right? You could grow it, which again, if you're growing it in a garden, that's going to help you take care of yourself. It's good. It's mentally stimulating. It's mentally healing. It's spiritually healing, right? You out there in the garden, you outside, you touching grass. Think about that, right? You're helping yourself in a lot of different ways. I still work out regularly, right? Whether it's yoga, whether it's lifting weights, whether it's going for a walk, riding the bike, and cannabis helps me, right? In a myriad of ways. You look at Ohio's health issues, we rank near the bottom of the United States in overall health care. So we have to understand, right? The state is making money off of locking people up for weed, right? They're making money from people being sick. They're making money from, people over consuming alcohol, right? How many things stem from alcohol consumption, right? Abuse, right? Child neglect, domestic violence, car accidents, death, alcohol poisoning. The attorney general prior to Trump came out with a report that said, alcohol consumption causes 7 different types of cancers. So you got to understand, like, they want more people to get cancer and go to Ohio State and go to their Wexner cancer facility. So as people, we have to reprogram, right? Decolonize ourselves, right? You can't say, well, I got my weed, I don't care about everybody else. But whole time there are whole demographics and communities that have been underserved, neglected, and overly criminalized for weed and drugs. You don't see those same amount of police officers in Dublin, Ohio, for crimes for weed or drugs. You don't see those same amount of people in Upper Arlington. You don't see those same amount of people in New Albany, right? But why are they targeting certain specific communities that look a certain type of way? Whole time, they'll turn the blind eye to their kids selling drugs in college. They don't even know he's selling the drugs in college, but he got money. And they're not asking where the money going and coming from. To him, I'm in business school. I'm just doing business, right? We're not seeing a bunch of police officers on college campuses where we know the majority of those kids, we know, selling Adderalls. So at some point in culture and community, we have to stop with we don't know what's going on over here, but we're going to over criminalize and over judge these people over here for a plant, which most people weren't growing. They were simply selling and consuming. And then obviously it goes on to harder drugs, because as life gets harder, shit gets wilder. Now I got to take fentanyl, you know what I mean? To ease the fucking pain. Right. And I don't advocate for none of that. Right. And so, but again, I think it's important that, and also you have lower income jobs, you have higher attainment of higher education, because again, you just don't have the same resources, support, economic infrastructure in certain communities. But if we continue to say, well, my life is good over here, I got a good job, I could work from home on my computer, I could send emails all day, I can make calls all day, I'm not going to lose a job opportunity because I have skills that allow me to move in a lot of different ways. I have family support and resources. I have a home. not an apartment, a home, right? I'm not living at home with my mom, so I could do what I want to do in my home. I can create my environment how I want to create my environment, right? And so we have to sometimes put ourselves in other people's shoes. Sometimes we have to listen to other people's stories, because when it becomes our chance, then it's like, oh, well, you should have grace, empathy for me because, oh, it's not my fault. But then, well, now it's your fault over here. Get me? So I think because I see that a lot in Ohio. I'm not from Ohio originally, and so my my upbringing completely different from Ohio culture. I didn't grow up in farm towns. I grew up on the East Coast. I grew up in upstate Rochester, New York. Or I was born in upstate Rochester, New York, for the first 6 years of my life, and then my adolescence was in Maryland, PG County, DC. And then I got a scholarship to Ohio University, where I attended there from 2008 to 2013. So obviously I was I was 18 to 23 years old. Tried out for the NFL with the Oakland Raiders in 2013, got cut, retired from the NFL, never officially retired. I just stopped. Nobody gave me an offer. So I was like, I'm done. My body's hurt. I would rather smoke weed and not have to worry about being judged by the NFL. And potentially having a career ruin. And again, you got to make decisions, right? Yeah, that money seems nice. It seems nice, but you have to give up something for that money, right? We all have to. I mean, it's a part. You sign the contract. When you sign the contract, you sign on the dotted line for that. And again, everybody has to understand, everybody in the NFL is not Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Tom Brady, right? Those are one of ones. They're 53-man roster. I don't really watch football these days that much, but I think 53-man roster still. Everybody on that roster is not getting paid the same. Everybody's contract is not the same. The top 5 to 10 guys on that team have good contracts typically. Everybody else is dispensable. God forbid you tear ACL. God forbid you get too many concussions. God forbid you roll an ankle. God forbid you smoke weed, get drug tested multiple times. God forbid you have a real life existential crisis. But since you're on this pedestal, you have to do better than the person down here, because we're looking up to you now, right? And that's a problem with a lot of people. We are fans, right? So it's easy to be a fan. It's easy to be a critiquer, judger from here, from my couch, right? It's easy for me to judge OCAN from my seat. It's easy for me to judge the business people from here, but it's not until I get in the trenches, right? And that's what part of these podcasts, these shows are now, because again, we have to hold these people accountable publicly, because everything is public, right? They are doing this stuff on the record. And if you haven't been paying attention, go back to our catalog. We've been following Ohio cannabis policy for the last 5-6 years, right? And I only started talking about it publicly because I got my medical card. And I have a company called Athletes in Cannabis, where I promote athletes responsibly consuming cannabis, right? Because cannabis helps a lot of athletes in a lot of different ways, whether it's mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, right? I deal with arthritis already at 36 years old. I'll be 37 here in a few months. But how many 36-year-olds want to be like, man, I got arthritis? But now that I consume cannabis, right, I talk about it. You know what I mean? Because the cannabis helps me when my ankles swell up, right? And again, there's a lot of different ways of consuming our cannabis, right? So I have balms for my ankles. Shout out to my guy Mike Smith, who's running for state representative right now. Shout out to Mike Smith. We did interview Mike Smith, so go check that out as well. But Mike Smith gave me a nice balm for my for my cannabis pains. I wake up in the morning and my fucking wrist hurt. You know what I mean? My shoulders are tight. Go check me out. Go Google me. You know what I mean? I got a little bit of, I done been through some shit. But a lot of people, especially as men, we don't want to share it, right? A lot of our men, our egos, right? It's a lot of ego. And that's why I like cannabis is my thing. Like, I'm not an ego person, right? I'm a Virgo. I'm an earth sign. You know what I mean? So like, I'm all about holistic healing, holistic living. I'm all about, sharing my truth and my story, because you never know who can help. But I also know it's helping me. It's very therapeutic, right? And so again, when you are in these systems, whether it's college sports, whether it's pro sports, whether you have you're working for a company, at the event there were like two dudes who work for the feds. I know, I'm a Fed baby. My parents worked for the federal government for most of my life. That's why like my life has been so structured, right? Like people be like, oh my God, you're so well spoken. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. My parents were my stepmom was a lawyer. My stepmom went to Georgetown Law School. You know what I mean? I'm not an idiot. Everything that I do is calculated. Everything that I do, there's a purpose behind it, right? And so again, when you're consuming cannabis at 17, but you got to keep it on the low, you consuming alcohol, you got to keep it on the low, got to be very mindful, because I don't want to fuck up a Division I scholarship. So I'm a party, I'm gonna have a good time, but I'm not gonna push it over the edge, right? Get to college. Oh, everybody smoke weed? Everybody doing cocaine? Not everybody, obviously, but this is an embellishment. But a lot of people, cocaine, perks, ecstasy, everything, alcohol. Like, what are we talking about? Weed. And these are all of our future business leaders, our finance leaders, our marketing, our journalists, our educators, K through 12. What are we talking about? So this ideology that we always want to just separate everybody and act like everybody ain't got something going on, just because certain people have a certain job title and they wear a certain image, a certain mask for the job. We have to understand that. You signed the contract, right? So again, the NFL contract, boom, boom, boom. You sign there, boom, boom, boom. 5 million, 3 years. So then people hear 5 million, 3 years in the NFL, and they're like, oh, like that's more money than anybody in my family will ever make. That's more money than I'll ever make. Okay, they are W-2 employees. So 5 million, right? W-2 employee, what happens when you get a check? Your federal, state, all those taxes are already deducted, right? The same thing for a professional athlete. That's the sticker price. 5 million is not how much they will make. You have to pay taxes on that. Professional athletes pay a jock tax, where they have to pay taxes in every city and state that they play in. So obviously, there's a different bandwidth of taxes versus playing in New York versus Ohio versus Texas versus Indiana versus Pennsylvania. Everybody has a different tax. So you have to account for that when you're watching these athletes. Oh my God, like, how did you drop that pass? He's a human. Do we watch you and everything you do and critique everything you do? No. So people have to be very mindful of what they're doing. It's very easy to blah with no accountability, right? But just because they're professional athletes does not put them away from being human. Same thing with the owners of these companies. That's why we have to humanize them, not dehumanize, right? The same, we dehumanize people that consume cannabis. We dehumanize people that have been locked up for cannabis. We dehumanize people all the time for various reasons, right? So we have to check ourselves, even in the cannabis space, because I see a lot of it in the cannabis space. There's a lot of, my weed better, my you know, it's a lot of people trying to get their little slice of the pie, get their little crumb. And at this point, you're not getting no slice. You're getting a crumb. That's why I'm in the media space. I'm not in the plant. The only plants I touch is when I roll some stuff up. You know what I mean? But I'm not growing. And even if I am growing, it's going to be in an investor standpoint, right? It's going to be from a creative standpoint. I'm not a grower, right? Or I got some plants in my backyard. You know what I mean? But that's home grow. That's home cultivation. And so I think it's important that we really start to we are in a new phase of society, right? The old ways are washing away. The old world, how things were done, like now we have this technology, we have this information, we have the resources. We see what people are doing in real time. So why are we picking and choosing how we hold people accountable, right? Because we're afraid. A lot of people live in fear, right? Oh, that person has so much more money. That person has 100,000 followers. That person has, oh my God, like his wife is a news anchor. Oh my God, he played college ball. Like it doesn't matter. Like, stop. We have to stop. You know what I mean? Like somebody's job title, the amount of money somebody makes should not make them more valid than anybody else. And that's the problem with capitalism in our society, because what happens? We need money to live and exist. Cost of gas prices going up, cost of utilities are going up, right? But again, you have generational issues. We have the boomer generation, you got the silent generation, you got Gen X, you got millennials. I'm a millennial. You got, what is it under us? I forget what's under us. You got my kids, I think, are Gen Alpha, right? And so you have all of these different things. And millennials, I pull for millennials big time, because one, we are not children anymore, even though a lot of us are acting like children. Stop being afraid of your parents. Stop being afraid of your grandparents. We have to step up politically. We have to become the leaders that we want to see. We can't keep complaining that, oh, they're not doing what we want. Yeah, because they don't know. It's an old playbook. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. So stop trying, right? Let that old dog be who that old dog gonna be. But the new dog's got to step up. And I've always been an underdog. And I love being the underdog, because they don't see you coming, right? They think because you don't have all the fancy bells and whistles, you don't have all the extra capital to pour in, that's going to stop you. Nah, this is all strategy, right? And so for the community, for people that are in the cannabis community, folks that are locked up, the Black and brown community, the African-American community, the Latinx population, Hispanics, poor white people, poor working class people, lower middle class white people, lower middle class black people, middle class black people. At some point, we got to unite. At some point, everything is just hogwash, and then it's like, well, the billionaires are getting richer and richer and richer, and everybody just watching them like, oh my God. And then we're using their platforms, right? So we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, and they control all of it, right? They run the politics right now. So you got Palantir, you got all these AI companies, Elon Musk, Donald Trump his family made what, $300 billion since he became president. So again, they're consolidating the wealth, they're consolidating the resources, and who gets left out? Because certain people think that, oh, I'm better than you because I got a job. I got a mom and a dad that can help me out when I'm in a grind, in a grind, right? I could fly under the radar, right? I can't fly. I've never been able to fly under the radar. I'm a black man, so any space that I move in, even when I'm with my own people, I'm different. You know what I mean? Like, I've been exposed to colleges. I've been exposed to the federal government game. I've been exposed to elite businesses. I've been exposed to some of the wealthiest suburbs in the country. So when I'm with my people, it's like, he different. He talk different. He move different. He not, and I have nothing against tattoos. I don't have no tattoos, right? So I just move a little different. My little sister said, oh, you talk like a white boy, because I didn't grow up in the hood, right? But again, I'm with white people. Well, I'm not white. So they like, what is he doing here? Now, if they see me with my wife, it's a different story, right? And that's why I wear my rings, because you see the ring and you're going to put some respect on my name, right? And so again, that's why a lot of people have to understand, like, the old ways, the old game, that's what they want to keep, right? And it's over. But obviously, when things are over, it's very hard to let things go. It's very hard to release power, control, right? This is how it's always been. We've always been the dominant culture in society. Alcohol and tobacco has always been dominant in this capitalist system that they got going on. But hemp has been around for thousands of years. Cannabis has been around for thousands of years. Where are our farmers? It's very silent from the farmers. You would think I would want to produce agricultural crops that would make me money, right? But again, the federal government is controlling things. The people are silent. Farmers voted heavily for Trump, which again, what is it? Schedule 3 might help some of the farmers, right? But it's only a small percentage. I'm in Ohio, so all I see is corn and soybeans. You don't think hemp would be great for the soil in Ohio? You don't think hemp would be great for the air quality in Ohio? You don't think hemp and cannabis would be great for products, new and innovative products and solutions, plastics, fuel? We have to start attaching these things to cannabis. It can't just be about the high, right? Like, no, like we have a full-on hemp program, sustainability, right? Paper products. Everything shouldn't be made from timber. But again, if we are ignorant, if we don't understand, if we are shadow banned, if we are told that we are less than and we believe it, if we have these business folks telling us that, oh, well, this is a regulated market, everything needs to be tested, and so y'all microwaving weed. And again, we understand microwavable weed has always been around, but don't lie to the people. They're trying to corner the market, right? And receive as much money back for their investors. Because again, you probably had to put up 5, 10, 20 million to run a cannabis company. Easy. You know what I mean? All cash. And I don't know if some of y'all got that, you know what I mean? Send a check my way, we'll promote you. And it's like, no. But we don't take bribes. But again, I think it's important that people start to connect these dots, right? Cannabis is something that we all can grow. Just imagine if 50% of us, the same amount of people that voted for cannabis consumption or issue 2, imagine if half of those people grew their own weed or grew hemp. Now, what, over 2-point-something million people voted for issue 2. There's 11.8 million people in the state of Ohio. So just do the math. Right? But if you only have a handful of cultivators, 20-something, 30-something cultivators for the entire state, right? Of course, you're going to have another 500,000 million people like, shit, I'm about to get it how I get it. But we need more, right? We need more education. We need more awareness. We need more support for our craft growers. We need more people at the State House. When we were going against the politicians, there were 40 plus people that showed up to testify opposing Senate Bill 56 and the bills that were Senate Bill 56. But again, as the people, we have to come together, raise awareness. Again, there's a lot of people, oh, well, my job. Okay, you make money. How about you support people doing the work? At the top, you can support us, Ohio Cannabis Report, directly via my Cash App, G13 Ventures. I also have a nonprofit. If you want to support my nonprofit, Green Environmental Outreach, we work under that umbrella as well for doing public health. We literally just had a Springfield, Ohio, Clark County health and wellness fair that everything was free resources, free community testing for different things. Dr. Naravetla, he is a heart surgeon. He's on my board, and he puts this event on every year. So again, I'm doing work in a lot of different spaces. Ohio Cannabis Report is just one tentacle of my octopus, right? So again, like, do more. A lot of people got to do more. A lot of people got a lot to say, but then don't want to create their own platforms or want to have their faces hidden, which I get it. You got to protect yourself. But I've always been in the public eye my entire life. So I've never been able to run from the smoke. If I did something, I'm held accountable. You know what I mean? And again, I don't profess to know everything. I don't profess to be perfect. And that's why I share how I share, because it's just me authentically being me. Also, just a disclaimer last minute that I am just speaking, right? This is just personal opinion. This is not representative of any of the companies that I represent, right? This is my personal opinion and thoughts, reading articles, sharing articles. Because again, people got to understand, like, there's power, right? There's power, there's influence in a lot of the things that we do. And so if we don't use that power, use that influence, we can't continue to complain, about certain things, right? If we're not willing to do the work. DCC, I'll do the updates on the DCC, Department of Cannabis Control. Ohio. I get higher. All right, so here are the latest updates, and I'm gonna get out of y'all here for today because I need to go work out. So here are the latest numbers, April 20th. Surprise, surprise, they posted it on 420, right? A bunch of people that don't even smoke, right? Most of the people in the cannabis community or the cannabis industry, you can tell they don't smoke. Like, how you smoking? You ain't smoking no gas with the attitude they got. That's for damn sure. Because I get making money, but you want to shut down all the competition? Nine of the MSOs got sued by the attorney general for being a cartel. Come on, y'all. House money. All right, so by the numbers, so we got 37 certificates of operation for cultivators. That's all the cultivators that we have in the state. 23 level 1 dual use certificates to operate, 14 level 2, right? They've gotten rid of level 3, right? Never gave the level 3 licenses out, never did the lottery, never put out the social equity money to help smaller companies, smaller people, smaller communities be able to invest in cannabis. All right, and so these are the companies right here. These are the licensed companies right here. Ancient Roots. Now we rock with Ancient Roots. Shout out to my girl Kenzie. We interviewed Kenzie a few weeks ago. They are one of the few locally owned cannabis cultivators. They're level 2. Appalachian Farm Products, Agromed Ohio LLC, Ascension Biomedical, ATCPS. Now, obviously, some of these they're doing business under another name. Buckeye Relief and their CEOs have been one of the biggest supporters of SB 56. Shout out to my guy Rodney Hash. He's done some deep dives and investigative reporting on Buckeye Relief and their owner. Buckeye Relief also owned Amplify, which is the dispensary in Columbus. Canamed Therapeutics, Certified Cultivator Corporation, Celio Jordan LLC, Columbia Care Ohio LLC, Cresco Labs Ohio LLC, Cureleaf OGT Inc., Farkas Farms LLC, Pharmaceutical RX LLC, Fire Rock Cultivation Ohio Limited, FN Group Holdings LLC, FW Green Investments LLC, Galenas LLC. They're also pretty local, I believe, that still, try to do the best. I think they use Living Soil. Don't quote me on that. Green Investment Partners LLC, Greenleaf Gardens LLC, Grow Ohio LLC, GTI Ohio LLC. I believe they were part of the lawsuit as well. Harvest Grows LLC, Hema LLC, Mother Grows Best LLC, NEN Holding LLC, Ohio Grow LLC, Ohio Clean Leaf LLC, OPC Cultivation LLC, Paragon Development Group LLC, Parma Wellness Center LLC, Parma Can Ohio LLC, Pure Ohio Wellness LLC, Right Gene Technologies, Riviera Creek Holdings, Standard Wellness Company, and Toradol Ohio. So these are all the companies that have, and as you can see, license type, subtype, level 2, level 1, level 2, level 2, level 1. So the level 1s are your bigger growers. Level 2 are a little bit smaller. Then processors. There are 46 certificates of operations for processors. So you have Ancient Roots, and then obviously some of these companies, the companies that were cultivators are also processors and also own dispensaries, right? So you'll see some of these double names: Ancient Root, Appalachian Farm Processing, Clutch Cannabis, AYR Wellness. They were a part of the lawsuit. Benaleaves Limited, Buckeye Relief. Benaleaves does some great work. Shout out to the homie Broderick. He's really a community-focused advocate for the plant. Really been hustling for Benaleaves. They have some great products as well. When I do support the industry, I do try to support those local brands. Buckeye Relief LLC, Canamed Therapeutics Processing, Canna Ascend Ohio Processing. Give me 1 second. I'm going to close my garage. It's raining hard. Canna Ascend Ohio Processing, Certified Cultivators Corporation, Celio Processing, Corso Verde, Cresco Labs, Curaleaf, OGT, Diamond Science, Farm to Flower, Pharmaceutical, Fire Rock, F&N Group Holdings, Franklin Bioscience, Green Investment Partners, Greenleaf Therapeutics, Grow Ohio, GTI Ohio, Harvest Processing, 100% Labs, Innovative Healing Solutions, Ohio CGPR, Main Street Health, don't know how to pronounce that, something Pharma, MC2P, Mother Grows Best, NEN Holdings, NMG, Ohio P1, Nora Labs, LLC, Ohio Green Systems, Ohio Processing Plant, One Origin, OPC Processing, PharmaCan Ohio, Pure Ohio Wellness, Purpose Leaf, Quest Wellness Ohio 3, Riviera Creek Holdings 2, Pharma, Standard Farm Ohio, Standard Wellness Company, Sun Theory Ohio. So you have some of these people that are dual use processors, which means they can process for medical and adult use. Then you have 6 testing labs. So again, you got 37 cultivators, 20-something processors, and only 6 labs, right? So these are the places that people get. These are the places that the companies get their flower and stuff tested by, right? The laboratories. So again, you don't think you could slide one of these labs a little bit of extra cash and they're going to change the testing for you, or they're going to slide, come on, man. So you got ACT Laboratories, you got CP Labs, Ohio Operating Company, Green Analytics Ohio, North Coast Testing Laboratories, Pinnacle Testing and Specialty Labs, and then Smithers CTS Ohio. So those are all of the testing laboratories. Dispensaries, we have 209 dispensaries in the state. Again, remember I said they're only allowing up to 400. I don't believe they've opened up any more licenses for sale. For those, so then they have them split up right now, dispensaries. So you got Allen County, Backroad Wellness, Curaleaf, Ashland, Clutch Cannabis, Ashtabula, Italian Herbs, Athens, Bloom Medicinal, Firelands, Scientific, Herbal Wellness Center, Athens, and then Muvuno of Athens. You got Aglizy, Veritalife, Wapakoneta. You got Belmont, Columbia Care, Ohio, Cresco Labs, Brown, Cresco Labs, Ohio, Uplift. You got Butler, Beyond Hello, Bloom, Medicinal, Cannabis, Consume, Oxford, Shangri-La Dispensary. You got Champaign County, Field State. You got Clark County, Certified Dispensaries, Terrasana, The Forest, Springfield. You got Claremont, AYR Wellness, Beyond Hello, The Forest, Cincinnati, Uplift, Columbiana. You got FRX, Coshocton, you got 2, Ascend, Coshocton, Story, Coshocton, Cuyahoga County, you got 25. I'm not about to read all of those, but you got Amplify, 2 Amplifies, 2 AYRs, Clutch, Mavunu, Rise, Rome, Standard Wellness, Terrasana, The Botanist, The Landing, Source Holdings, Therapy, Zips Dispensary, Verilife, Defiance, Ohio, you got Theory Wellness, you got Delaware County, you got Erie County, Fairfield has 1. Fayette County has 1. Franklin County has 28. I believe Franklin County has the most out of the state. So you have Cuyahoga and Franklin County, obviously Cleveland and Columbus. So these are all the ones in Columbus, Ohio. You got Greene County, Guernsey County, Hamilton has 24. Again, that's Cincinnati, Hancock, Highland, Hawking, Huron, Jackson, Jefferson, Lake, Lawrence, Licking has 3, Lorain has 7, Lucas County has 2, Madison 1, Mahoning 2, Marion 1, Medina 1, Miami 2, Montgomery 9, Morrow 1, Muskingum 2, Paulding 1, Perry 1, Pike 1, Portage 4, Preble 1, Richland 1, Ross 1, Sandusky 1, Scioto 3, Seneca 1, Stark 7, Summit 8, Trumbull 9 or 6, Tuscarawas 1, Van Wert 1, Warren 4, Washington 2, Wood to Wine.1. So those are all of your dispensaries. Oh, sorry if I wasn't sharing that. But yeah, here's that list. Here's a map, interactive map, so you can see. So these are all the dispensaries located in the state. Obviously, this is, bulk of them, Central Ohio, Columbus, bulk of them, Cincinnati. But then you have to understand tourism too, right? Ohio is surrounded by Indiana. We're surrounded by Kentucky. We're surrounded by West Virginia, surrounded by Pennsylvania. New York's not that far of a drive away. You got Maryland, Virginia. So again, like cannabis tourism, right? People will travel from, other states that may not have legalization yet and come to Ohio to purchase cannabis. Like if I live right here in Indiana on this border, you don't think I'm a hop, skip, and a jump away? You don't think if I'm in Kentucky, I don't remember Kentucky. Is Kentucky legal yet? If I'm in West Virginia, if I'm in Pennsylvania. So like you got to think about money from for the state, right? If the state's trying to make more money, wouldn't you want, that tourism to come into your state, purchase cannabis, that tax revenue goes back to the city? You know what I mean? Stuff like that we got to be conscious of. Like, but this is the reality of what's going on in our state. And I think it's important for people to watch this stuff, pay attention, speak up about it. I mean, at your local county commissioner's offices, at your city council meetings, come to Columbus, come to the state house, contact your state representative, right? Contact your state senator. I'm going to bring up a list, SB 56, Ohio Senate. So you can see who voted for SB 56, because again, it's important for people to know who their legislator is and how they're voting, right? So this is Steve Huffman, who was the primary sponsor, right, to revise medical and adult use marijuana laws, levy the marijuana taxes, right? Effective date March 20th, 2026, right? So it shows you the whole process. It was introduced to the Senate, introduced to the House, in-House committee, and Senate committee, reported by committee, passed by the Senate, passed by the House, signed by the governor, right? So here are your co-sponsors, right? You have Senator Andrew O'Brenner. You have, I'm not going to go through this. I've already done this once before. You got Jerry Serino. You got Bill Reineke. You got Michelle Reynolds. You got Tim Schaefer, Steve Wilson. The representatives. You have Sean P. Brennan, Darnell T. Brewer, and some of these are Democrats too, right? So these are Republicans and Democrats. Cam Brownlee, Jamie Callender, Sarah Fowler Arthur, Latina M. Humphreys. That was the one politician that hit me up. Was like, I voted for it originally, but didn't vote for it, at the end or whatever. Marilyn John Newman, Mike Odioso, Phil Plummer, Mark Segrist, Brian Stewart, Eric Seinberg, Josh Williams, Bernard Willis, Tom Young, right? So, and all this stuff is public information. This is legislature.ohio.gov/legislation/136/SB56. So I'm not pulling this shit out of my ass. You know what I mean? Pause. Like, this is literally the state government's website. As you can see, the Ohio legislature, 136 General Assembly, right? So here's the documents. So it shows you the whole process. You know what I mean? Again, and I know a lot of people just aren't aware, right? Like everybody, I don't have enough time. Like, I got kids, I'm busy, I'm doing this, I'm busy getting drunk, I'm busy getting high, I'm busy having sex, I'm busy doing X, Y, and Z. But these are your state politics. Everybody complains like, oh my God, I can't afford life. I can't afford shit. My life is fucking in shambles. These are the people in the state that control your tax dollars. So you're going to work, paying taxes to these motherfuckers to do what they doing to you. and you can't hold them accountable? I'm just saying. Y'all will hold me way more accountable than you will Stephen Huffman, than you will all these co-sponsors. If I do something, say something wrong as a former pro athlete, college athlete, you'd be all up on my shit. But these are literally the people screwing us. Everybody, the children, the education system, the earth, the environment. These are the ones controlling the flow of money. You have your federal government, which, again, most of us can't control what the fuck is going on. That's Congress. Congress ain't doing nothing, right? But one thing that we can affect is our state politics, our city politics, and our county politics. That is our money. So why wouldn't you hold these people accountable? And a lot of people just say, oh, well, they're just going to get voted out. Okay, well, some of them, we live in a gerrymandered state. Some of them don't have no opponent. So they are running unopposed. So you could not vote for them, period. They're going to still win. So this is the legislation. It just shows you the reports as reported by the committee, as passed by the House, as reported by the House committee. Boom, 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 boom. Analysis, final analysis, passed by the House. Boom, boom. So you could go, these are all of the documents, right? All of the documents that talk about, you know, the whole process of making SB 56 law, right? It was an extensive process. It wasn't just passed. They had multiple readings. They had multiple committee hearings and meetings. So this is the status. It shows you, right? This is when it went into law. But dating back to January 28th, 2025 was when it was introduced to the Senate. So this is what I say. Like, it didn't just pass. Like, these were all the different dates. All the different dates. Line item veto, signed by the governor, sent to the governor, signed by the governor, boom, effective. So I had to go through all these processes to become law, right? And that's, again, a lot of people say, well, we voted for this. How did, okay, so again, we have to learn. Again, many of us don't know. I've been learning on the go as well, right? So I preface that. Don't look at me as a subject matter expert. I smoke weed. Not a politician. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a lobbyist. I'm an advocate and an activist and somebody that likes to consume cannabis, okay? So again, I've been following this. I'm as ignorant as a lot of you guys in politics and policy, okay? So issue 2 was a initiated statute, a citizens initiated statute, which essentially means they ran the whole like regulate marijuana like alcohol issue 2. They marketed it, they promoted it, they got signatures for it. Now, these same people that promoted issue 2, Tom Heron and some of them, are also on the side now of SB 56, supporting SB 56. Oh, so somebody hired them as the law firm to do this work. They got 2.something million of us to get rowdy and go vote. We voted for it. A citizens initiated statute can be changed by the legislature. They don't have to change it, but they have the authority to change it because a citizens initiated statute, that's just the language of how the law was initiated, right? The people said, we want it. We put it up. That's what the law became. The governor didn't like it. The GOP Republican didn't like it. And so they voted against it, and they created this whole policy to get rid of hemp, get rid of the social equity program, create fines and penalties, you know, consolidate, you know, the business. So a certain amount of people, of course, some of these politicians are probably getting kickbacks, right? So a lot of people say, well, what can we do? Well, what we need to do is a constitutional amendment, right? Which would write our civil liberties essentially into the Constitution of Ohio, right? Ohio has its own constitution. So we have to put it in the Constitution, right? And so that's what has to happen next. But unfortunately, politics requires a lot of money and organizing. Who has $2 million, right? To pay lawyers, pay signature collectors, people to actually get this thing going, right? So we have to organize. And so that's something that I've definitely been looking into. I know a lot of other people are looking into, but that's what needs to happen if we want to get our full rights and civil liberties protected. Is we have to put it into the Constitution. So again, I think it was a great thing that we've seen how many people want cannabis, right? Over 2 million people voted for cannabis legalization. I believe more people voted for cannabis legalization than voted for the governor. But again, it's the law. It's how the game is played, right? And it's a big money game, and it requires community to come together, right? And so again, if you have people like, well, I'm cool, I got my weed, I can go to the dispensary, I don't care that the weed is expensive, I got money. Well, then you are also against people that are in a lower status of you, or people that live in the inner city that may not have higher earning income jobs, that may, not have a solid family structure at home or family support, or there's just so many things, right? So you look at yourself as being better than, because, oh, I got my weed, I got my medical card. Some people can't afford the medical card. Some people don't even know, right? Like, people have been smoking weed forever. Like, so I'm gonna keep getting my weed how I get my weed, but they're not gonna pay attention to the laws, the policies, the fines until it happens, and then it's like, oh shit, I'm fucked up. So again, that's why it's important that we come together as a community. And there's unity. All right, let me see. Votes. So here are the votes, the breakdown of the votes. So it shows you the yays. So these are the people that yayed for cannabis. I don't want to say I'm blow my nose. So again, it's important, to understand like who these people are, right? These are the yays for SB 56. Republican, Brian Chavez, Al Quatrona, Republican, Stephen Huffman, Kyle Core, Republican, Susan, blah, 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 blah. As you can see, all Republicans on that, right? And then the nays are here, right? Again, all Democrats, right? So look how many of them, right? Like, what is their agenda, right? They have an agenda, and they usually vote along party lines. Here you have, this was the House. So you had 34 nays to 50 yays, right? Like, again, it's party lines, right? Then you have the nays. So, well, we got a Republican in there. We got a Republican. Oh, we got a few Republicans in there. With the nays, Jason Stevens, your Democrats, Democrat, DJ Swinger. You know what I mean? So again, you gotta that's when it failed the Senate. You know what I mean? So again, these are all the things, like, everybody can look this stuff up. I don't have special access to any of this. So again, you can go and see. Here you have witnesses testifying as a sponsor, proponent. This is when we had a lot of organizations come in. So Tim Johnson he's a former police officer, former military, I believe. So he had an opponent testimony. These are all opponent testimonies. As you can see, there's certain people, Mavunu, who's a part of OCAN, I believe, Ohio Normal, Civics Cannabis. Opponent, interested party, opponent. Then you have this first hearing. This was the one that I believe that I was a part of. Again, I couldn't make it to every one. So here's me right there. There's my opponent testimony. So again, you got to be active. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not perfect. Like, I don't really know everything, but and then here's what I wrote: testimony opposing substitution in Bill 56. So you just write your piece. You know what I mean? Like, write your piece. So again, I think it's important, you know what I mean, that everybody steps up. You know what I mean? You got to use your power, use your influence. A lot of people think they don't have power or think they don't have influence, which is not the truth. We all have some power and influence. And so again, I started Ohio Cannabis Report with no money, right? Like, I just do this out of passion, out of conviction. YouTube is a free platform. Instagram is a free platform. The only thing I'm paying for is StreamYard. That's to stream it to YouTube and Facebook. Instagram, free platform. Facebook, free platform. So again, I know a lot of people, I'm not doing it if I'm not making no money. You do a lot of stuff. You pay money to do stuff that you really not getting no real benefit from. So why wouldn't you create a platform or do something that is yours? You know what I mean? And that you can say your piece, right? Adrian told us to get out of our basements talking about weed and actually go talk to Ohioans, which I know we talk to a lot of Ohioans. We literally just had a social equity forum. We don't just talk to business people, which I would assume she does, right? Just business people, politicians, lobbyists. We actually talk to the people. So again, man, make sure y'all like, comment, follow, subscribe, do all that good stuff, share it. Put it on Reddit, put it on your platforms. If you like what I say, if you don't like what I say, let me know. Tap in, man. I appreciate all feedback. I don't, to me, that shit, I don't really get offended by a lot of stuff. So, I know what my purpose is. I know why I'm doing what I'm doing. And at the end of the day, that's all I can really do. You know what I mean? I can't really, I don't live by everybody else's rules or codes or, I have my own personal lived experiences and I share those lived experiences. Not many people can say they're married to a news anchor. Not many people can say they're All-American Division I athletes, scholarship athletes. Not many people can say they tried out for the NFL. So again, I just try to use my position of power, influence, whatever I have, and energy and my creative and my story and talking and trying to bring people together to talk about this subject, right? I'm not trying to bash OCAN. I'm not trying to bash these cannabis companies, but at the end of the day, they're hurting the majority of people, outside of themselves. And I'm not a millionaire. I'm not a billionaire. So I don't have no allegiance to the millionaire class or the billionaire class or the elitist class. I have none whatsoever. I don't care to be a millionaire. I don't care to be a billionaire. I want to have enough money to raise my children, my wife be happy, me be happy, have a roof over my head, food, clothes, freedom to exist. Like, I don't need all that extra. So again, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you being here. Again, this is the Ohio Cannabis Report. Just a quick disclaimer, not a politician, not a lawyer, not a lobbyist. I don't own any of these cannabis companies that are legal in Ohio. So again, I like to put that out there. If you need medical advice, go to a doctor. If you need legal advice, go to a lawyer. I am not a lawyer. So appreciate y'all. Peace.